Nobody trusted a red dragon, especially not one like him. They were the Warbringers, the Skyburners, red-scaled terrors that leveled colonies in the Drakkar riots 2 decades ago. Every child born after that war was raised on warnings. If you see a red dragon, run. If one speaks, don't answer. They don't parley. They destroy. So when the massive figure landed outside our frontier outpost, red wings stretching wide against the dusk sky, all our weapons turned toward him without hesitation. Except mine. Not because I wasn't afraid, but because he wasn't attacking. He just stood there, alone, unarmed, smoke trailing from his nostrils, claws buried in the ash-covered ground. Then he stepped forward and said, in flawless galactic standard, "I need to speak to a human." They didn't want to let me go. "You're not trained for this," Captain Deeks warned, hand tight on my shoulder. "He's baiting you. The moment you get close, he'll burn your bones into the dirt." "Then why hasn't he done already?" I asked. "He's been standing there for 20 minutes. Deeks didn't answer, but I walked through the shield gate anyway. Every step closer, I expected him to lunge, to show his teeth, to be the monster the Holovids promised he was. Instead, he just watched me. His massive tail lay still, his head tilted in a strangely curious, almost sad way. When I stopped in front of him, close enough to feel the residual heat coming off his scales, he knelt, and then he offered his clawed hand. Not a weapon, not a threat, a handshake. I stared at it like it might explode. "I know what your people think of mine," he said, his voice deep but calm. "But I'm here because I want to end that story, not repeat it." My palm was shaking when I placed it in his claw. The moment we touched, something shifted, not in the air. In me. He called himself Kharos. Once, he'd been a general in the Red Brood fleet, the same fleet that attacked our mining worlds during the war. But his eyes were different from what I expected. Older, wearier, like someone who had seen too much blood and not enough peace. He came not to conquer, but to confess. "I burned cities I didn't understand," Kharos said, his voice soft as we sat by the outpost fire later that night. "We were raised to think humans were invaders, that you poisoned stars, harvested planets, erased species. Some humans did. I admitted, not all." He nodded. "Same for my kind. I thought I was doing what was right, until I walked through the ruins of a human school I destroyed. There were still toys buried in the ash. The fire crackled between us. I left the fleet after that," he said. "Went into exile. Until now." "Why now?" He turned, his golden eyes catching the firelight. "Because I had a hatchling, a daughter. She died sick. There was no one in our clans who could save her. But humans, you saved a frost drake from extinction on Salus 9. You saved species we'd abandoned. I thought maybe—" His voice broke. He didn't need to finish. I understood. He hadn't come to ask for forgiveness. He came because he believed something better was still possible, for both our kinds. And because someone once told him, maybe a whisper in his youth, or a dream during exile, that one human, just one, might listen. The next day, he flew me to the high mountains of Irita's peak, red and jagged, where ash clouds clung like ghosts. There, he introduced me to others, not soldiers, outcasts, red dragons that had fled the war, survivors, mothers with wingless young, elders with scarred snouts and broken horns. "We don't want to be feared anymore," Kharos told me as they cautiously approached. "But we can undo what's been done, only change what comes next." One small dragonling crept forward, scales dull and thin from hunger. She touched my hand. No claws, no growls, just trust, and I felt it again. That shift, convincing the humans at the outpost to offer aid, was another matter. You want us to help red dragons? Deeks barked. After what they did to us? Not the ones who did it, I said. The ones who stopped, who left, who chose something else. They're a threat. They could have killed me. They didn't. Kharos flew me into their heartland. I'm still breathing. Captain Deeks hesitated. But why you, he asked. I thought about it for a long moment, then answered, because when he held out his hand, I took it. And that handshake changed everything. Weeks passed. We sent food first, then medicine, then healers. Engineers taught young dragons how to filter clean air into their lava-heated dens. In return, dragons helped us clear volcanic paths and mine heat stones too dangerous for human hands. For the first time in history, humans and red dragons stood side by side, not as enemies, but as neighbors. Still, not everyone welcomed it. There were attacks. Old soldiers who remembered the burning skies. Riots in some colonies. One night, someone bombed the outpost hangar. We nearly lost everything. Kharos stood guard over us that night, wings outstretched, roaring not in fury, but in defiance. This is the price of change, he told me. But I will not let their fear undo the future we're building. The council summoned me months later. They wanted testimony, evidence, proof that what I claimed wasn't fantasy. So I walked into that vast chamber of diplomats and generals, stood before them, and behind me, Kharos entered. Gasps, panic, armed guards aimed. But he didn't flinch. He bowed, then stood tall. I burned your homes once, he said. But today I come not with fire, but with hope. If a human can take my hand, can you? The room fell silent. Then someone clapped. Then another. And then a human counselor, old, scarred, missing a leg from the war, stood and approached Kharos. He looked up at the towering red dragon, narrowed his eyes, then offered his hand. Kharos took it, and history shifted again. Now, I stand on the rebuilt outpost platform, watching a group of young red dragons learn to fly with human instructors. Kharos stands beside me. You were the first, he says. I just shook your hand. I reply. He looks down at me with a rumbling chuckle. Sometimes one handshake can burn away centuries of hate, and for the first time in living memory, a red dragon smiles.